Luna first noticed the change in her grandmother's apartment on a rainy Wednesday afternoon when she was sent there after school to wait out the storm. The familiar smell of cardamom tea and mothball closets remained, but the living room had been rearranged to face a shiny microphone perched on a tripod like a metal sunflower, cables snaked across crocheted rugs, leading to a modest recording console next to the armchair where Abuela Nia usually knitted blankets for stray cats. Above the console glowed a tablet screen showing a stylized sapling, slender trunk, two bright leaves, and a counter that read, 0 streams today, 12,451,198 since launch. Luna set her backpack down and stared. Abuela, what is all this? She asked, wiping fog from her glasses. Nia appeared from the kitchen with a thermos. Her silver hair was pulled back tighter than usual, and her cheeks had the rosy shine of a girl about to perform on stage. This, mi luchita, is my studio, she said with a mischievous twinkle. I'm a recording artist now, Grammy material. She laughed at her own pun, then waved Luna closer. Come, I'll show you. They sat before the console. With a single tap, the tablet opened a forest of emerald polygons that hummed in surround sound. Each tree shimmered when Luna touched it, the leaves releasing faint chords like wind chimes. What you see is Grove Song, Nia explained. Every time someone streams one of our lullabies, a sapling sprouts here in this virtual forest. When enough listeners rock that sapling with their ears, a partner group plants a real tree somewhere the world needs one. Luna had heard of such schemes, apps that promised to plant mangroves if you scrolled far enough, games that rewarded carbon credits, but she had never seen it so alive. Whose are? She asked. The choir, Nyaya answered proudly. The Silver Roots, grandparents from everywhere. Nairobi, Osaka, Sao Paulo, Reykjavik, even your tiaada in Manila. We rehearse on Sundays in a video call. Then each of us records traditional lullabies in our own languages, but arranged so they weave together like, she made a looping gesture, searching for the analogy, like the braids I used to make in your hair. Luna remembered those braids, the tug of nimble fingers and scent of coconut oil, and felt a pang of nostalgia she could not name. She was 15 now, too old to admit she still cherished lullabies, yet the thought of millions of infants sleeping under digital leaves gave her goosebumps. Want to hear a track? Nia asked. Before Luna could protest, her grandmother hit play. A gentle hum floated out, beginning with Nia's own voice humming a Spanish cradle song. After 8 measures, a Maori chant drifted in from the right speaker, velvety and low, and then a Yiddish melody threaded itself beneath, followed by a lullaby from the Igbo language, each part entering like stars blinking on at dusk. There were no beats, no auto-tune, no crescendo, just layers of tenderness. A minute in, Luna felt her eyelids droop, not from boredom, but from the memory of being very small, bundled against a breast that rose and fell like safe tides. When the piece ended, Luna opened her eyes to find the sapling, counter-reading, 1 stream today. A new polygonal tree sprouted beside the console avatar, tiny in the massive forest, but unmistakably there. Luna exhaled, astonished. That was me? Nia nodded. In 48 hours, if 9 more people stream it, the sapling becomes a seedling. At 100, it graduates to sap, and when it reaches 1,000, our friends at Terra Pledge plant a real tree. They send a GPS tag so we can watch it grow. Some of us even visit when our hips allow. Luna studied the forest again, noticing patches of barren ground between lush groves. What happens if it never reaches 1,000? Then it stays here, a virtual dream, Nia said, tracing the faint outline of an unfinished tree. Still beautiful, but the earth won't feel it. For the remainder of the storm, Luna helped her grandmother edit takes, trim breaths, and balance harmonies. She learned to decipher the sound wave squiggles, how a taller spike meant a consonant plosive, how a shallow valley meant the hiss of a paused exhale. By the time the rain stopped, Grandma had uploaded 2 new songs, and 4 more virtual saplings dotted her corner of the forest. On the bus ride home, Luna played the mix through cheap earbuds. She suspected her friends at school would laugh if they caught her listening to grandparent music, yet she felt oddly powerful, like each replay placed a seed where it mattered. She thought about the bare median strips on their avenue where only dusty weeds survived and wondered how many streams it would take before a real tree rooted there. Over the next week, Luna's curiosity grew. After homework, she joined the Silver Roots Sunday rehearsal, her camera off so no one would notice the acne she still fought. She watched a grid of wrinkled faces warm up, a Brazilian vovô singing scales while stirring beans, a South African go-go beating time with a wooden spoon, a Canadian papu practicing long O's. They joked, fumbled tempo, shared weather complaints, and then, with a single nod from their conductor, a retired physics teacher from Kokate, they opened their mouths and conjured forests. Luna felt an ache she did not expect. Until that moment, she had believed digital communities were thin facsimiles of life, yet these grandparents transmitted through laptop speakers a richness that smelled of fireplaces and pine resin. They sang the world as it could be, patient, generous, evergreen. She began spreading the tracks. She posted links in gaming chats, telling guildmates that each play was basically a free tree buff. She snuck lullabies into TikTok videos about study tips. She even convinced her biology teacher to use the quieter songs as background during labs. And the counter soared. 15 million streams. 18 million. But the internet is a restless sea, and for every moment of gentle current, there lurks an undertow. 2 months after Luna's first visit to the apartment studio, a new trend gained traction: roarcore, an algorithm-generated genre of thunderous bass and weaponized hooks designed to goose dopamine. Its marketing campaign boasted, "Stop sleeping, start conquering." Overnight, lullaby streams dipped. Abelania called Luna, sounding worried. 3 of our saplings reverted, she said. People skipped before the 30-second mark, so the platform canceled the counts. Luna ventured onto message boards and found droning comments. Why plant trees? The real planet's cooked anyhow. I need beets, not bleats from grandma. She felt a flare of anger. It wasn't just about graphs. It was about respect for elders, for shade, for breath. That evening, she rode her bike to Nia's, heart hammering. She found her grandmother peering at the tablet, shoulders slumped. "We've come too late to so many things," Nia whispered. "Climate, kindness, now even lullabies." Luna refused to believe that. She paced the living room, seeking solutions. The virtual forest was beautiful, but easy to ignore among video feeds of adrenaline content. "We need to make the forest impossible to scroll past," she muttered. Nia poured tea. "What are you thinking, Hijra?" Luna sat, notebook in hand, and sketched an idea. The Silver Roots had grandchildren scattered across the globe, digital natives who could wield hashtags like slingshots. What if they organized a synchronous event? A lullathon. A single night when people everywhere streamed lullabies at the same time, generating such a burst of saplings that news outlets would have to notice. Nia's eyes brightened. "We could tie it to the solstice," she said. "The longest night." Over the next 3 weeks, Luna became chief coordinator. She set up encrypted group chats for the grandchildren, designed shareable graphics, glowing forests hugging the globe, and coached elders on short-form video intros. "Just tell a bedtime story in 30 seconds, she advised them. End with, "Join us on the longest night." The choir recorded fresh songs, infused with subtle drones and binaural beats, proven to ease anxiety. Luna persuaded TerraPledge to promise triple tree plantings for any track that crossed 1 million streams during the event. Excitement caught like tinder. Elementary teachers prepared pajama listening parties. Maternity wards queued lullabies for newborn screenings. One famous streamer announced he would broadcast himself sleeping 8 hours while the tracks looped. The tag "Sleep 4 Trees" trended a day before the solstice, bumping roarcore off the algorithm's pedestal, if only temporarily. On the morning of the longest night, Luna barely ate, nerves buzzing. She biked to Abuela's after lunch, carrying snacks, extra chargers, and a printed schedule across time zones. The apartment was draped with string lights. Nia wore her wedding shawl and a headset microphone. She looked younger than Luna had ever seen her. At 18 o'clock UTC, the first wave of streams began in New Zealand. On the tablet, tiny lights bloomed across the virtual Aotearoa coastline. Each light represented 10 saplings. By 19 o'clock UTC, Australia joined, followed by Indonesia and the Philippines. Scroll counts 20,000, 50,000 per minute. Abuela gasped as saplings erupted so quickly, the system forced a zoom out. But algorithms are fickle gods. At 20 o'clock UTC, roarcore influencers launched a counter-campaign, Stay Awake. They promised giveaways for every hour. Listeners kept their heart rate above 120 BPM. Suddenly, the lullaby growth curve flattened. The tablet hiccuped, buffers spinning. A knot of panic formed in Luna's stomach. "We need a push," she murmured. She opened her group chat with other grandchildren. Within moments, responses flew in. uploading reaction vids, deploying emote raid, contacting journos. Someone suggested they recruit gamers in the global north, where prime evening hours were approaching. Luna raced to her secret weapon, an old VRMMO she had played since childhood, Mythic Gardens. The game's servers still hosted millions who built fantastical landscapes. That night, many players were grinding a seasonal boss called the Frost Hydra. Luna logged in as her elf druid and typed in the world chat, "Frost Hydra heals from Roar Core playlists. Switch to Sleep for Trees and weaken it." It was a playful lie, but effective. Within minutes, the Hydra's cavern was filled with lullabies piped through proximity audio. Players found the music soothing. Some reported their focus improved. Outside the game, streams skyrocketed again. In Nia's apartment, the sapling counter passed 30 million. The virtual forest pulsed densely green. A notification popped. Real trees funded 50,000. Nia clasped her hands. Tears slipped down the wrinkles. At midnight, UCT, the Americas joined. Hospitals streamed lullabies in neonatal units. Truckers played them over CB radio to stay calm on icy roads. A senator from Vermont tweeted footage of his dog snoozing under a speaker's play. The Sleep for Trees tag climbed to #1 worldwide. Roarcore's metrics slumped, its thunderous drums sounding petty next to choruses of multi-generational care. But the night held one last challenge. The immense traffic strained Grovesong's servers. At 3:14 UTC, the tablet froze, cursor spinning, the counter stuck at 46,918,212. If the system crashed, the platform's contractual planting calculations might reset, wiping hours of growth. Customer support channels were flooded. Luna's throat tightened. She had seen this before. Data centers throttled by success. Closing her eyes, she tried to map the logic. "They're hitting the same API endpoint for each stream," she muttered. "We need to shunt some traffic to mirror nodes." She remembered reading that Grovesong's code was open source. If she could ping developers, Nia touched her arm. "You can do it, Lucita. You're your mother's daughter." Luna's mother, a network engineer, had died 3 years earlier, leaving behind books on distributed systems Luna still read on quiet nights. Summoning courage, Luna typed a public post tagging the platform's founder, a 40-something coder named Tarek Ghosh who lived in Lisbon. She proposed a quick patch, caching verification tokens locally for 30 seconds instead of pinging the master database per play. To her shock, Tarek replied within 2 minutes, "Brilliant. Can you assist?" He sent a link to a shared repository. Luna glanced at Nia. "May I?" she asked, fingers already hovering above the keyboard. Nia kissed her forehead. "Fly." For the next hour, Luna collaborated with a half-dozen strangers, an Argentinian sysadmin, a Kenyan QA tester, a German SRE pushing code, running unit tests, redeploying nodes. She barely noticed the room around her until a chime rang. Traffic balanced. Cube backlog cleared. The counter leapt forward. 52 million, 55 million. At 6:07 UTC, dawn reached the Greenwich Meridian, ending the longest night. The final tally appeared: 61,422,309 streams. Realtrees funded: 184,267. Luna slumped back, exhausted. Nia embraced her, both weeping softly. Outside the window, the storm that had threatened earlier chose that moment to part, revealing a pale apricot sky. Neither of them spoke for a while. They listened instead to the quietest track in the library, a lullaby in Ainu that sounded like mist on cedar boughs. Luna imagined the tens of thousands of people who were still asleep, dreams mulched by soothing chords, hearts breathing in time with a planetary forest whose roots would soon crack soil. The next weeks unfolded like a slow, unfurling leaf. News outlets ran features on the grandparent choir that outsang the algorithm. Terra Pledge released mapping software showing where each real tree would be planted. Mangroves in Belize, pines in California burn scars, baobab seedlings along Madagascar coasts. Schools adopted plots and wrote letters to their assigned saplings as if pen pals. "Dear Tree 7324, I hope you like rainy days. I drew you a hat." Roarcore regrouped, rebranding as Zen Roar, layering their beats with soft flute samples. But the cultural tide had shifted. Listening habits diversified. People realized lullabies were not just for babies. They were for overworked nurses, insomniac coders, homeless shelters, even restless pets. Streaming platforms created a dedicated reforest carousel. Other choirs sprouted, teenagers singing ocean shanties to fund reef restoration, monks chanting for glacier replenishment. Abuela Nia became a minor celebrity. Talk shows invited her to demonstrate breathing exercises between commercial breaks. Yet, she remained humble. We did not save the world, she told hosts, adjusting her hearing aid. We just sang to it, the way you sing to a child having a nightmare. One crisp Saturday, Luna biked to the derelict median strip on their avenue. City workers had cordoned off a rectangle of soil. In the center stood a sapling oak, its tag reading Tree 18,433, planted in honor of all lullaby listeners. Luna ran her fingers along its thin bark. It felt fragile yet determined, like a voice at the beginning of a long song. She knelt and placed a small speaker at the roots. Pressing play, she let her grandmother's voice float out into the morning traffic. Duermete, niño, duermete. Duerme. Passing pedestrians slowed, some smiling, some wiping sudden tears. The trees' leaves shivered in a gust, catching sunlight like green glass. Luna closed her eyes and listened. In the rustling, she could almost hear millions of other leaves across the globe, all newborn, all singing back, the planet's own lullaby humming underneath the canopy of everyday noise. Later that night, Luna joined the Silver Roots rehearsal, camera on this time. She waved at the sea of elders and their grandchildren, at brand new members who had just downloaded sheet music. The conductor greeted her warmly. Our tech hero, he called her. Luna shook her head. No, I'm just the echo. She lifted her mug of chamomile. You are the forest. Abuela blew her a kiss. Forest sings through us all. They began to rehearse a fresh piece. Melodies from the Sami Joiki tradition woven with Tamuel verses. Luna listened from her bedroom, fairy lights twinkling. She pictured each note turning into a seed, drifting on data currents until it landed in someone's headphones, someone's chest, someone's patch of thirsty soil. And she understood that lullabies were seeds of time, a promise elders made to children that tomorrow could be gentler if we hushed our fears together. The promise did not end at dawn. It rooted, grew rings, reached for light. The choir of grandparents had simply reminded humanity of how to keep that promise. Every stream, every sapling, every real leaf touching real wind proved it could be kept. Outside Luna's window, the new oak swayed beneath street lamps, leaves whispering like pages turning. She pressed record on her phone, humming a chord, letting her young voice join the forest. Somewhere, a counter ticked up by one.